Hello, everybody. All right, so today is Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. Hope everybody's having a good week thus far. Today, of course, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. We do have, and I'll talk a little bit about what's on tap for tonight in a moment, after giving people a chance to come in, of course. We'll be going over 3 articles tonight from Bleeding Fool. Well, it's got, as well as, of course, got wrestling wrap up, get caught up on last night's Monday Night Raw, as well as talking about what's going to happen on tonight's NXT. As we will, of course, as always, guys, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, anyways, let's see now. We're just past the 2-minute mark, so we're going, as I said, Casper, the friendly ghost, the friendliest ghost you know. He laughs and plays, sings and dances all day. Friendliest ghost you'll see. How rich can you get? You're never gonna know till you met. This young boy, Richie Rich is his name. His bank account is as rich as his name. Richie Rich. All right. Okay, so now we're at the 3-minute mark. So I guess I'll talk about what's on. So, as I said, we do have 3 articles from Bleeding Fool tonight. All 3 are DC Comics related. 2 of the articles were written by Avi Green. The one that's going to be the most critical in terms of its critique, actually, it's not an Avi article, but a Victor James article. So among the articles we're going to go over tonight include the most complete DC Comics collection is up for auction. That's an Avi article. Let's see. And according to one writer, and this isn't Avi writing this particular article, but DC Comics has made Nightwing Forever Unclean by Victor James. And then DC Entertainment is shifting their focus to expanding digital comics. So the first 2 articles are from yesterday, and then the last article is from today. So, of course, we'll also, as I said, have the wrestling wrap up, in which we'll talk about what happened on last night's Monday Night Raw, as well as, as WWE continues to make their way towards Crown Jewel. And then also, talk about what's going to happen on tonight's NXT, as well as look back on this day in each history. So, without any further ado, why don't we go ahead and get started? Let's get to the articles here. If you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. I'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So with that, let's get to this first article here from Bleeding Fool. So the most complete DC Comics collection is up for auction. Article by Avi Green published yesterday. So let's take a look at this then. So this is Avi speaking here. The VT Digger gave a report about the comics collection of Christine Farrell, a late store manager who owned quite a collection of all sorts dating back many decades. One that's now unfortunately being sold off to speculators. Now that's for on this one that's probably the only critique you'll see is lamenting the fact that comics are being sold off to speculators. So I'm guessing that a late store manager. I'm guessing Miss Farrell is no longer with us in this world, as it were. So, anyways, now alluding to the VT Digger article here. What many visitors to Earth Prime Comics, one of Vermont's first comic book stores, may not realize that the shop's late co-founder, Christine Farrell, wasn't just another comic book fan. Farrell built one of the largest collections of DC Comics, the home of, quote, the world's greatest superheroes, unquote, such as Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern in existence, becoming a quiet legend in the world of comic art. Farrell died in April, leaving behind a trove of treasures and memories for those in the comics industry, as reported by 7 Days. In her Burlington home, comic books filled every corner, packed in boxes, wrapped in mylar sleeves, or stacked high in piles. Farrell had tens of thousands of books, among them every DC Comics ever published, starting with 1935's New Fun Comics #1. Wow! Talk about going back. New Fun Comics that was the very first comic that DC did at the time, known as National, I believe. I think it was Nicholson Publishing or National Periodicals, one of the two there. But that's going back quite a ways. While some of her collection has already hit the market, the full DC Comics collection is set to be auctioned off later this month, with sales continuing in the months to come. Quote, it's definitely unique. Only one person in history had a complete collection, unquote, said Lon Allen, vice president and comic art expert of Heritage Auctions based in Texas. The auction house handling the sale of Farrell's comics. Another auction house has been selling the other full collection for the past few years, but those copies were of much lower quality, according to Allen. Quote, she went out of her way to buy higher grade copies, unquote, Allen said, explaining that books are inspected for factors such as condition of the cover, spine, pages, and corners. The book is then given a grade, usually on a scale of 0.5 to 10, with 10 representing a perfect condition. And now here's Avi speaking again. I certainly think it's amazing she owned only so many old back issues that's now close to a century old. But what we have here is again a situation where classic content is being commoditized on the auction circuit instead of being donated to museums. And on that note, as we refer back to the article from BT Digger, I think is the name of the source here. Quote, they were discussing what era some of the comments were from. In smaller quotes, is this 80s Marvel? Is this DC from the 60s? Unquote. In Brian Jordan, Van Dyke said, quote, so it was very cool to have them be like, smaller quote, hey, check this out, unquote. Although some Vermont comic artists are disappointed that Farrell's collection will be dispersed instead of preserved in a museum for people to read, Van Dyke said everything is happening in accordance with her will. Quote, this is the course of action that she set up, that the estate was essentially going to be liquidated, unquote, and said. So now we come back to Avi speaking here. And again, feel free to comment and or ask questions. If anything grabs your attention, I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. See, and this is Avi speaking out, see, this is what's regrettable about the situation here. She may not have bought the classic issues, so they could be added to museum projects, but rather for speculators to have a field day with. How is that helping? When these back issues are bound to vanish into vaults in the basement, why can't the issues retain visibility? Surprisingly enough, however, and then it's back to the article that he's referencing here, Farrell did not own a single graded or certified book, Allen said, suggesting she read the comics she collected. When a book is certified or quote-unquote slabbed, it refers to the process of encasing it in a hard, tamper-proof plastic case to protect it from further wear or damage. The formal certification and slabbing of comic books started in 2000 with the creation of the Certified Guarantee Company, CGC, which is also grading Farrell's comics collections for heritage auctions. It is an expensive process that comes out of the pocket of the person selling the comic. Quote, it makes me happy to hear that Chris's collection is not in that state of existence, unquote, Stephen Bissett said. Quote, but it will also diminish the market value in that people will bid on those comics, and they will bid on them hoping on getting a copy of a given comic in good enough condition so they can slab and resell it at a higher price. So this is going to be a highly speculative driven auction process. Greg Gordiano, a Burlington comic artist and illustrator, describes the certification of comic books as a profit-driven scheme that has cast a cynical shadow over the entire collecting industry. Quote, slabbing is so non-empathetic towards enjoying the books because once it's in that plastic case, you can't enjoy it, unquote, said Greg Gordiano. Quote, you can't even look at it. Zero pleasure, unquote. For Rick Veitch, a comics artist and writer mostly known for his work for DC's, quote, Swamp Thing, unquote, the comics industry has become a collector's market rather than a reader's market. Quote, as an author of comics, I want readers, not hoarders, unquote, he said. Let's see, now, Avi speaking here. Now, granted, Avi, as usual, has his viewpoints on those who just collect to collect, and he's making that pretty well known here. So, anyways, and again, if you guys haven't already, feel if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, let's get back to article here. So this is Avi speaking again. Well, I'm glad some sense is being brought in here. And pretty surprising to learn Mrs. Farrell may have actually read a lot of her collection. But that's why more needs to be done to voice objections to anybody doing business with profiteers. Encourage more business be done with museums and other archives instead. And then it's going back to the article. But there's hope. At the Center for Cartoon Studies in Hartford, an institution focusing on comics and graphic novels, young cartoonists are setting up small marketplaces where they are outside of the collector's market. Quote, they're highly creative in following their individual visions and creating these sometimes handcrafted comics, unquote, Beach said. Quote, you go to one of the marketplaces and the customers coming in aren't comic nerds. They're just regular civilians off the street who are looking for something interesting and beautiful to read, unquote. And we come back. Avi here. But are the above cartoonists making use of the paperback hardcover format? That's how you really get the message across these days convincingly. And it's regrettable. There's still a considerable number of artists and writers out there who vehemently refuse to make the shift to the book market with products consisting of higher page counts than the 20 to 30 pages a pamphlet could contain. To say nothing of advertisements, if today's graphic novelists do make use of paperback, that's a step in the right direction. But the point must be made more widely, and there's only so many specialty news sites who won't make the case for paperbacking and hardcovering for comicdom, and seem very disinterested in actually doing so. And we're coming to the end of this article here. Let's see now. We do have a couple more coming, so a couple more articles coming. For now, those who care about the medium need to make it clear that auctioning is only hurting the industry and making it a joke, and actually preventing the art form from maintaining visibility if quote unquote collector's items only get stored in vaults, and future generations of specialty store owners should consider trying to make a serious shift to just selling paperback hardcover products if they really want to prove they're serious about promoting the art form for reading for all ages. All right, so there we go with that one. Let's see, before I do move on to the next article, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment. So I'm going to turn on some music to where we don't have dead air. I'll be right back. am back. So, anyways. I'm going to do this real quick. All right. So, anyways, let's get back to go on to the next article, and this is actually the most critical of the three articles right here, and this is not an Avi article. Now, granted, Avi did give quite a bit of critique on the whole auctioneering of comics in the last article we read. This one I know is not, because I previewed this stuff earlier. This next article is actually from, I believe it was Victor James or James. Let's see. DC Comics has made Nightwing forever unclean. Article by Victor James published yesterday. And there's a cover right there, Pride DC. So I wonder what this is all about. So here's Victor James commenting here. As we've witnessed the long death spiral of the mainstream American comic book industry, the prevailing narrative from old school comic hopefuls has been to highlight the good and shame the bad. They hoped doing so would eventually shock Marvel and DC back into making enjoyable comics. But what has been transpiring in the comic industry the past decade is not run-of-the-mill comic drama. This is not the forming of a new team or a controversial death meant to drum up lagging sales. Some things cannot be walked back. The argument is that people will eventually forget about this terrible era of comics when the big two return to classic form. But you tell me, can you forget seeing Nightwing like this? And that's probably some people might find quite a bit disturbing. So, and Victor commenting here, why mainstream comics need to die. I almost feel like I should take up gambling because I am killing it in the prediction market. I said Indiegogo couldn't be trusted, and then they banned Cecil's cash grab too over politics. In that same Cecil article, I said Kickstarter would eventually return to their progressive roots, and a day later they banned somebody's comic. And at the end of my recent April's Fool article, I made this joke about Nightwing's butt. So the story ends on the ball-kicking cliffhanger in the preview comic. The advertising page released further interviews with villains as well. Joker is asked how he lost his main squeeze to a plant, and Deathstroke laments that the loss of his son Jericho, who fell victim to Dick Grayson's perfect tush. Okay. Saw this coming in my April Fool's article. So now DC has officially made the thirst a reality with nothing but B-U-T-T. Oh, God. Nightwing. No, it's not still April. No, we're well past April. We're like 6 months past April, people. There is a thin plot of Nightwing having to infiltrate the modeling industry to protect the models from a poison ivy protege. Apologists will say it's supposed to be funny and not taken seriously. Fine. But like I said, some things can't be unseen. Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty true a lot of the time. And again, if you guys haven't already, you guys can like and share the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. I'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the question. I'll try to answer the question the best of my ability. So, continuing on here with the article, then. Even if the big two reform and start from zero, am I supposed to forget it was implied Wolverine was in a threesome with Jean and Scott? Or Iceman and Tim Drake were turned gay against years of canon? That Captain America was turned in a communist, Frank Castle a child psychopath. How Nightcrawler was retconned from a God-fearing Catholic into a mutant born from two mothers who officiated over a gay wedding and started a cult. The list of character-wrecking retcons goes on and on. And this is why I cannot support the modern comic industry. How can I buy the latest diamond in the rough story from a Marvel or DC when I know that purchase will go to fund something like this? There is no guarantee that these terrible ideas won't eventually bleed into the few good stories left. Just like you can't comply your way out of tyranny, you can't prop up an infected industry by cherry picking the few good stories from the filth they regularly produce and pray they course correct. The big two seem to think they can experiment with anything, and the customers will eventually return when they pivot to actual superhero stories again. But some things just can't be unseen or forgotten. Well, I think the whole nothing but with BUTT spelling Nightwing is corny and really really just agenda driven to begin with. Anyways, and the scathing reviews on League of Comic Geeks bears that truth. The big two are losing fans who will never come back ever. YouTuber MJ Tanner points out how this is a new low and a clear double standard for comics, particularly DC comics. And then, of course, Victor James asks us to check out his superhero novel, Fiasco of Adventures. And he gives a couple links there. The check out my new website, the megacosm.com. All right, so there we go with that one. As I said, probably the most critical of the articles we'll read tonight. And then this one is actually, for an Avi article, this next one is going to be real short here. Pretty short compared to what Avi normally does. DC Entertainment is shifting their focus to expanding digital comics. Article by Avi Green published today. So, Wired, which I guess is another news site, did a report about DC making a deal with Global Comics to produce digital editions of their comics output. This from the Wired article here. Comics are due for a reboot, and the old guard knows it. DC Entertainment, the elder statesman of the business, has been trying everything to get young eyes on its familiar characters. From Monday's surprise announcement of DC Go webcomics to a recently launched kids line to a licensing deal with teen favorite Webtoon. Today, the company announced a partnership with even more potential to reshape the medium. A distribution deal with Global Comics, a digital platform that has raised millions in funding to optimize traditional comics to be read by scrolling vertically on a smartphone. And of course, we've seen a number of these sites. We use a couple of sites as well, for when we do our stuff as well. So, all right. I said, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more people, some more. Let's see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. Also, if you haven't already, or I'm sorry, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions the best of our ability. So, or I will try to answer the questions the best of my ability. So, with that being said, let's continue on here. Starting today, fans will be able to read 400 DC, Vertigo, and Wildstorm books, including story arcs from Batman, the Joker, and Doom Patrol on Global Comics subscription-based app, with many free to sample. The comics will be in standard panel and page format, but given Global Comics' investment and strategy around verticalization, DC's move suggests a clear trend. That's because the deal follows yesterday's unveiling of DC Go, a new mobile optimized initiative on its DC Universe Infinite, or DCUI, digital service. It won't roll out until November 20th. So I'm guessing that's about a week before Thanksgiving, I guess. But when it does, it'll allow readers to flick through original Harley Quinn, Nightwing, and Raven series, as well as some archival material in a style familiar to anyone using apps like TikTok and Instagram. Now back to Avi speaking here, of course. See also are digital comics hurting the comics industry. Gee, haven't they noticed there's been a million quote unquote reboots in terms of continuity and none of it worked? And again, interesting, they keep pushing Harley Quinn on us in all directions. What is so special about her that isn't so special about Black Canary and Huntress? I'm guessing this is Avi speaking again, of course. Now, and what's so special about the Joker, lest we forget, pushing even a veteran villain creation like the Clown Prince of Crime upon the audience at this point has long been reprehensible too, because again, there's been far too much emphasis on villainy, much like darkness. So this is, of course, one of Avi's pet peeves of late. The focus on the dark side or evil for too long a time. And again, they make a big deal out of Batman, but not Superman. The only quote unquote clear trend here is marching through the darkness, most likely without even any comedy to alleviate the frustration. Then referring back to the article that he's referring to, seems simple, obvious even, but it's a shift the traditional comics industry has been slow to make. When comics first made the migration to digital formats, they largely resembled the same multi-panel pages that comics readers had been looking at for years, optimized for the screens of iPads or other tablets. Vertically scrolling comics, on the other hand, allowing readers to follow the story top to bottom, like reading a feed on their smartphone, with all the other things now available on those screens, mobile games, social media, old school publishers have to keep up. Let's see. All right. All right. Anyways, as we continue on with the article here, that point was hammered home this summer when Webtoon, the South Korean mobile platform that has popularized vertically scrolling comics worldwide, went public in the U.S. based on a valuation of $2.67 billion. DC's plans, announced in the lead up to New York Comic Con, which begins Thursday, indicate that the comics giant is ready to advance on a number of fronts. Quote, the legacy American comic publishers seem to have reached the limits of new customer acquisition through media, unquote, says Milton Greep, publisher of ICV2, the trade publication of the comics industry. This is the company that Yellow Flashes uses oftentimes to note, the sales numbers, top 50 and all that. If they want to grow, he adds, they're going to have to embrace vertical scroll comics, quote, which are bringing in tens of millions of new, mostly younger readers worldwide. Disclosure, in parentheses here, disclosure, this writer has written for ICV2, unquote. Related, Marvel Comics shutting down the Marvel Digital Comic Shop. I don't know, those are just... So the legacy publishing has long reached the limits of what it can accomplish through artistic value. So why does he think this is going, and this is Avi speaking again, obviously, he think is going to do much to change any negative perception they've acquired since the early 2000s. When the Didio Quesada brought down DC Marvel's artistic cohesion, to say nothing of continuity, sorry, but this farce of digital marketing is coming far too late. If there's any front DC's not advancing on, it's mending their continuity, respect of legacy characters who are marginalized and humiliated, and moving away from the kind of woke politics they've been shoehorning into their output over the past decade. Marvel's tried this digital approach in the past and it hasn't led much of anywhere, mainly because the artistic quality was bad. Why should we be expected to care about DC taking a similar direction? And that's all for that article. So now I'm done with the articles. Let's see what time. Let's see where we're at on time here. Now that I'm done with those. So 42 minutes. So we've made some pretty good time here. Let me see. All right. So now would probably be a good time to start talking. I guess now they're coming up on 43 minutes into the show here. Probably be a good time to start doing the wrestling wrap up here. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened on last night's Monday Night Raw, as there were some things that happened. Most notably, one announcer has quit the WWE, as another longtime announcer has made their return. So on last night Raw, of course, Samantha Irvin made her final appearance with the WWF, as it was reported that she was leaving it, and it cleared up now that she's actually quit the WWE because she's seeking to pursue other options. There was some talk about her possibly going to AEW to join her fiance Ricochet, but even Ricochet has shot that down. Now, people say that, you should take that with a grain of salt, but at least according to some of the sources out there, it's been indicating that Samantha Irvin may want to pursue other options, those being, in the realm, in the area of music. But as she is leaving, making her return to the WWE after being gone for 8 years, Lillian Garcia made her return to Monday Night Raw last night to become the new permanent replacement announcer. At 58, Lillian Garcia has tons of experience to call upon, and of course is a favorite of WWE fans. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about some of the matches that happened last night. So there were 2 first-round tournament matches to crown a new number 1 contender. In the first one, saw the New Day of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods defeat the Authors of Pain of Akam and Razor, who, of course, had Karrion Kross, Scarlett, and Paul Ellering in their corner. In the other number 1 contenders tournament first round match, the LWO duo of Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio with Zelina Vega in their corner defeated American Made of the Creed brothers, who had, of course, Chad Gable and Ivy Nile in their corner. Also on the show, Damage Control went to a no contest with Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Now, in a backstage segment with Carlito and Adam Pearce, apparently there's some controversy coming out of that, as Damage Control had gone into Pearce's office to complain. They were speaking, of course, in their native Japanese tongue. And Carlito, who had been listening as he'd come in, had made the comment, "Oh, I got to learn Chinese," which many people called out on, saying that may have been racially insensitive and have what have not. So, so it may be one of those scenes that probably did not go over well. And in the main event, saw saw Braun Breaker regain the WWE Intercontinental title, as Jey Uso, who had held it for about a month, had had dropped it back to Breaker. Now, of course, it's not a clean victory, as Breaker got some help from the bloodline, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, among others, and as they're looking as a way for Jey Uso maybe to hopefully team up with Roman Reigns and his brother to take on the new version of the bloodline. It also led to a face-to-face encounter between Braun Breaker and Jacob Fatu in their confrontation over some of Breaker's comments about the Samoan family. Now that happened on last night's Raw. So tonight's NXT. Which will be held from the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, and be on the CW app. It will see Damage Control once again in action as Kairi Sane and Io Sky, the two remaining active members of Damage Control, as both Asuka and Dakota Kai have been nursing injuries. They'll be taking on the duo representing Metaphor of Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend, who were at Raw last night. The two recent WWE signees, Julia and Stephanie McClure, will be teaming up to take on the Fatal Influence duo of Fallon Henley and JC Jane, with Jasmine Nix in their corner. Luca Crucifino will be taking on former Heritage Champion former North American Champion Oba Femi. And in another, as the women are being highlighted tonight on NXT, as in the main event, has Tatum Paxley taking on Jada Parker. So in terms of wrestling wrap up, just those two things. We'll probably talk more about, of course, what will happen on tomorrow night's Dynamite tomorrow. So now what we're going to go ahead and move on to this day in each history. So today being Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. Let's take a look back on this day in each history. So first off, I'm going to head back 60 years ago. And on this date, 60 years ago today, the 5th issue of Hawkman from DC, at the time known as National Periodical Publications, went on sale on newsstands on this day back in 1964. Bi-monthly title, sold for 12 cents with 32 pages. Story was Steel Shadow Steel, written by Gardner F. Fox, art by Murphy Anderson, featuring Hawkman as the main character with backups from Hawkgirl, George Emmett, and Big Red. And the featured villain was Shadow Thief and his former cellmate, a guy named Floyd. In this issue, there's also a story where Shadow Thief discovers the secret identities of Hawkman and Hawkgirl in this story. So the Shadow Thief makes off with the best of jewel collector Lucius Crane's donation to the Midway City Museum, and Hawkman's sudden appearance on the scene allows Sands to deduce his Carter Hall identity. When Katar is is decoyed into picking up a booby trap pistol and is knocked out, Shayera takes him to their ship to recover. So that's pretty much, and I won't read the whole thing here, but just gives you an idea. So on this date, 60 years ago today, the 5th issue of Hawkman went on sale on newsstands on this date back in 1964. Now moving ahead to 2004. Moving ahead to 2004. On this date in 2004, Cartoon Network Studios' Evil Concarne, which of course was which was a spin-off of Grim and Evil. Evil Concarne. Evil Concarne would conclude its run on Cartoon Network on this date back in 2004. So 20 years ago today, Evil Concarne, a spin-off of Grim and Evil, would basically complete its run on Cartoon Network on this date 20 years ago. And with that being said, 2004 is just so nice that we're gonna hit it twice. As also on this date in 2004, as one entity was ending, another entity was making its premiere as the Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Special Edition movie, The Rumbling Sky from Sunrise, premiered in theaters on this date back in 2004. So 20 years ago today, Sunrise's Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Special Edition, The Rumbling Sky, premiered in theaters on this date back in 2004. So, let's see. So according to this, Rao's face is shown in the laboratory sequence. Kira has a talk with Lacus about how he isn't sure if he wasn't meant to be born in the world after he found out the truth from Ra. Lacus responds by telling Kira he belongs to the world as long as he is born and exists in the world, and his birth has made her a much happier woman. She then tells him she wants him to stay with her. In the final battle at Genesis, Atheron shoots down a Guay's experimental firearms type and a CGUE DEEP arms and speed. Mulaflaga's battered helmet is removed from the debris, and Clotho is killed by Durka. So that happened. So 20 years ago, Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Special Edition, The Rumbling Sky, premiered in theaters on this date 20 years ago. So with that, I do thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, a reminder, of course, we'll be back here tomorrow night with more niche news. Also this Friday, RJ Carter will be joining me on our last Friday episode of the Historical Comics Retrospect, in which we'll be wrapping up our coverage of comics that went on sale in March of 1940. We'll be looking at books that went on sale from United Feature Syndicate, most notably Comics on Parade, Volume 1, Issue 25. And we'll be looking at features such as Ella Cinders, Nancy and Fritzy Ritz, Billy Make Believe, many of the classic, newsprint comics that we'll be looking at. And then a programming note for everybody: starting next week, of course. Starting next week, we'll be moving up an hour. Starting, of course, Sunday will be our last. Sunday the 27th will be our last weekend edition panel show, or regular ones, anyways. And then starting on Monday the 28th, we'll be starting the Mikestand at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be starting on Sunday. We'll be going 6 nights a week from starting at 5 p.m. Pacific. So I hope you guys will still stick around for that. Hopefully we'll get some more people in. And then, of course, starting on Sunday, November the 3rd, that's where the historical comic retrospect will be moving to. And, of course, on November 3rd, R.J. Carter will once again be joining me as we'll be looking at comics that went on sale in April of 1940 from DC. We'll be looking at, of course, Batman Volume 1, Issue 1, and the debuts of Joker and Catwoman. We'll also be looking at the debuts of such characters as Dr. Fate, Wotan, and Zor. With that, and of course, for those of you who still like to watch Toonami or are interested in Uzumaki, don't forget this Saturday night, Sunday morning, Toonami will be airing an Uzumaki marathon of all 4 episodes. And then next Saturday night, the weekend of November 2nd and 3rd, Daylight Savings Time will be happening. And of course, they'll be premiering a new show, Invisible Fight Girl. Will be debuting a double episode premiere on Saturday, November 2nd, Sunday, November 3rd. So with that, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.